Uh, I'm not talking about so much about mobilization and not about citizenship. I'm talking about the public debate on the Euro crisis. And in this public debate, as you suggested, mobilization does not play a major role, as you will see. I present this very first draft because we got the data late, and the time pressure of the conference was responsible for that this paper was written at all, but it is a very first draft. So first some theoretical considerations, then a glimpse at the data, and then a few results, and finally concluding remarks. There has been politicization of the Euro crisis, but the question is how and in what form and by which actors. And we mainly have answers to the question of the how and to the which actors. But before I turn to this, a brief definition of what we understand by politicization. It involves three sub-processes: an increasing salience of the issue in the public sphere, a process of polarization of the elites, and an increased resonance in the public, what Schatzschneider has called expansion of conflict. Our data speak only to the first two elements. So for our purposes, politicization is salience times polarization. Salience times increased conflict. And it's times, because not added or something like that, because you need both in order to speak of politicization. Now, what are the preconditions of politicization of something like the Euro crisis? We don't think that you need a European public sphere to do that. Many people think European integration can only be politicized if you have an integrated European public sphere. We don't think so. Politicizing European integration is a result of a parallel process of rising salience and polarization of European integration in processes of communication in the national public spheres. And to explain what we mean, we turn to a distinction by Ruud Koopmans and Paul Statham, who distinguish between vertical and horizontal Europeanization of public spheres. Vertical Europeanization for them is the establishment of communicative linkages in the public sphere between national and European levels. And you can do this in a bottom-up version and in a top-down version. Bottom-up means national actors addressing European actors or making claims on European issues such as the Euro crisis. Top-down means European actors intervening in national debates in the name of common European interests. The horizontal Europeanization is establishing communicative linkages in the public spheres between different European countries. And here there are two versions as well. The weak version is the case where media in one country cover the debate in another country. The strong version is where actors from one country intervene in the debates in other countries, or actors in one country refer to the debates and issues of other countries. Now, what do we expect? We expect that politicization of the Euro crisis takes a form of a combination of horizontal and vertical Europeanization, as I just defined it based on Statham and Koopmans. So supranational and national actors from different countries reciprocally address each other in the public sphere of the national public debates. Secondly, we expect a parallelization of national debates. So even if the crisis is not debated by the same media or in the same language, the Euro crisis serves as a focus of attention of the national debates, and the debates follow largely the same similar patterns in the different countries. We expect the debates to be more intense in the Eurozone countries than in the other members of the EU or in non-member countries. Now, the intensity and the politicization of the debate is, and the actors involved in the debate are probably also affected by context conditions. And the multi-level governance structure of the EU is a very important context condition. The EU is a strange creature, a hybrid creature, where intergovernmental organization characteristics mingle with multi-level governance structures, and in particular the EU has a double representation system, as Luciano Bardi told us this morning. There is an intergovernmental channel, the representation of nation state by national governments, and there is a partisan channel, representation of citizens or societal groups by parties and parliaments. And there are, in addition, there are two dimensions of the conflict. On the one hand, the conflict in the Euro crisis is about economic redistribution between societal groups and nation states, but it is also about cultural or political redistribution in terms of national identity and sovereignty between nation states and from one nation state or the other nation state to the supranational level. So we expect the politicization of the Euro crisis to mainly take place in the intergovernmental channel and to turn mainly on economic interest. The EU is still a community, above all a community of communities, rather than a community of individuals. And it is a community which privileges the representation of collectivities and not of individuals. Moreover, the politics of crisis management was above all an intergovernmental politics. It was an intergovernmental arrangement of negotiations and bargaining. And the key actors were national governments and, or, I should add, supranational organizations, with the governments defending the economic interests mainly of debtors or creditor nations. This morning it was said, Helen Wallace said, there were the resilient countries and the vulnerable countries. I call them debtor and creditor countries. Now, the fifth hypothesis, to the extent that it occurs, the politicization of the Euro crisis in the partisan channel is probably domesticated. And this above all in the debtor countries, and it serves to reinforce probably nationalism. Why this hypothesis? Parties are mobilizing above all at the national level. We have seen that yesterday, and Wojciech Gagatek has given reasons why this should be like that. And we think that parties mobilize both economically and culturally, politically. On the one hand, they mobilize in economic terms against their own governments. And on the other hand, they mobilize culturally and politically against the governments of other countries, for example, the Greeks against the Germans, or against supranational institutions which steal their sovereignty. So much about the theoretical considerations. The data. We studied public debates on the Euro crisis between December 2009 and March 2012, I should have said. This spring, that's why the data became available so late. We do it in 6 countries, and a disadvantage of our design is we have decided this a long time ago. We just have creditor countries, so we cannot say anything. It's still interesting. Still.
But there's no bias.
It is a long-term project which started long before the crisis, so...
Some countries change position and become...
Yeah, it could be. we have another advantage. We have 3 Eurozone members, we have 2 other European members, union members, and we have a non-member. So there is some variation in this respect. We do content analysis in 1 quality newspaper in each country based on a sample of the relevant articles. I don't go into the technical details. What we code is 2 types of relationships, actor-issue relationships and actor-actor relationships. That is, how do actors position themselves with respect to issues and how do they position themselves with respect to other actors. I skip this. So what are the results? First of all, the overall development of the debate. What is the rhythm of the public debate between the end of 2009 and March 2012? That's the general picture. I drew vertical lines in order to indicate the events that are associated with the peaks or the troughs of this curve. I just briefly tell you these troughs and peaks have to do with events. Either decisions about bailouts of specific countries. For example, in spring 2010, it was the Greek bailout, which was the first real peak, or with European summits, which decided about reforms. The biggest peak has to do with these 2 summits at the end of 2011, which took all these decisions, which we have talked about in the rest of the conference. This rhythm of the debate is the same in all 6 countries. So the debate moves, I don't show this here, but it moves in the same way. This is the salience in the different countries. And you see the salience is indeed higher in Eurozone countries. It's the highest in Germany and the lowest in the UK. Astonishingly, in a non-member country like Switzerland, the salience is much higher than in the UK. That has probably something to do that Switzerland is an important financial center. Now, I show you the polarization based on the actor-issue sentences and based on the actor-actor sentences. The gray line, which is rather stable over time and which shows a generally positive average, is the actor-issue line. So generally, European published opinion in the quality newspapers was rather favorable to the measures proposed. On the other hand, you see that the actor-actor relationships turn negative in summer 2010, in spring 2011, and from fall 2011, they were generally negative. That is, the actors had more conflictual relations with each other than consensual relations. The overall politicization of the debate, you remember, is the multiplication of salience and polarization. I skip the technical details. You see the debate reached its polarized peak at the summits at the end of last year. Now, who were the actors? Here you see the categories of actors. European institutions, I should say supranational institutions, because the IMF is also in this category. Foreign executives and national executives. So national governments plus European and supranational institutions absolutely dominated this debate. And what is absolutely surprising, what we didn't expect, is that foreign governments are the most important actor in the debates of these 6 countries. You see that parties play a very limited role. In particular, European parties are very marginal. And others, there you would find public interest groups. They are largely absent from this debate in the public sphere of these 6 countries. Now, in order to get an idea of is this exceptional or is this not exceptional, I compared this distribution of actors with 3 debates that took place between 2004 and 2006 on European integration, on immigration, and on neoliberal reforms. We coded exactly the same way. Here you see the comparison, compare mainly the first two columns. The first column is the Euro crisis column. The second column is the European integration column, referring to the debate on European integration in the same countries between 2004 and 2006. And what you see is that in European integration before the crisis, national actors were much more important. You had the national executive and you had national parties which together made up more than half of the contributions, whereas in the Euro crisis, supranational actors and foreign governments are absolutely dominating. Now, who are the actors precisely that you see here? It's supranational actors and it's the German government. I mean, you say we knew it, but it's nice to see. It's indeed, and you can see France. It was said that France took a second role this morning. Is indeed the case, but France is second. All the other countries, all the other countries are much less important. The debtor countries together are not as important as France, and in other Western Europe countries, Britain is the most important one, but it's not so important that I put it separately. The own country, that's also interesting. In all the other countries which are not Germany, the actors from the own country are less frequently making statements in the public sphere than the German government. Now, who is doing the talking? You see here that about 2/3 of the talking in the media is associated with an individual actor. And you see also that 9 individual actors are responsible for about 1/3 of the statements, and these 9 actors are dominated by one single actor, and that's Angela Merkel. And she dominates, you see it, not only in Germany, in every country. The second one is Sarkozy, and you see that these actors represent the major organizational actors. Olli Rehn is representing the European Committee, Schäuble and Merkel, Germany, Trichet, EZB, Juncker, the Eurozone group, and Cameron, Britain, Lagarde, double roles, and Barroso, the European Commission. This I want to show you. This is really, in my view, is very interesting. It's an analysis, a more detailed analysis of the actor-actor relationships. So what is the quality of the relationship between the most important types of actors? And you see the German-French couple, which is in tight alliance, but opposed by everybody else. So in the public debate, everybody else, all the supranational actors, the governments of the debtor countries, Britain, and I mean, all other relevant actors are against the German-French couple. A final piece of information: how do these actors frame the crisis? And you see the most important 3 actors, they frame it mainly in economic terms or in terms of political efficiency. These are technocratic arguments. You see, however, that the parties, and in particular the national parties, they use cultural or political arguments in terms of sovereignty. And the national parties, for them, this is the most important type of argument. So our hunch that this crisis, although it has been mainly discussed in economic terms so far, could give rise to a nationalistic renaissance, or to a mobilization finally in nationalistic terms, is to some extent substantiated by the fact that national parties use cultural frames. So I'm done.